Episode 65 of the Thunder Underground podcast is here. My name is Trent.
My name's Jason.
And we've got another good one, I think.
They're all good, aren't
they? Does that sound like we're arrogant? No, I think we just have good people on our podcast.
Yeah. And we don't make it good. Or I don't make it good. But everything else makes it good.
Right.
That's right.
We've, as you notice in the title, we're going to be talking about Streets Gone Wild, which is a new festival in Tulsa, but there's also, it's part of the Farm Rock series, which has been going on for at least a couple years, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just what they're calling the Tulsa version of Farm Rock, since it's in the streets.
Yeah, exactly.
And we're going to get into all that. We're going to play you pieces of the press conference, because we went to that this past week. We've also got a short interview with Eddie Trunk, which is very cool. We're very excited about that.
That was quite an honor, yes.
Yeah, that's someone that we both have always been fans of listening to and then watching him on That Metal Show. And when we started this podcast, we thought, who would be like some guest dream guest we would love to have.
That's right.
And he's one of the ones that was right up there for both of us. And even though it's not a full-on podcast guest, we at least got a short interview with him. So
exactly. I mean, we didn't know how it was going to go or if we would or not. So to do it was just kind of, cool little surprise. And it was definitely a treat.
And the other thing is, we talked about this the last couple podcasts. Last week was our 1 year anniversary of dropping the first podcast.
Yeah.
Number one. And the day that we interviewed Eddie Trunk in this press conference was the actual 1 year anniversary of the first podcast.
Was it really?
Yeah, I looked that up.
That's awesome.
So 1 year from the day that episode 1 came out.
If we'd have told you back 1 year ago, hey, a year from now you're going to interview Eddie Trunk, what would you have thought?
I would have probably laughed.
Me too. And look what happened.
Yeah.
So very cool. Very cool.
Yes, very cool. We're a few days away from Rocklahoma, where we'll probably see Eddie Trunk again.
Yes.
And maybe we'll get another 7-minute interview with him.
Hey, that'd be great. I'm at least going to get my second book signed.
That's true.
I'm going to do that
eventually.
Had that
first one signed for probably 8 years or whenever it came out.
1 year I brought the second book, and I don't think he was signing anywhere. I'm hoping he's going to be out there somewhere signing. I got to get it signed.
...2016, we've talked about many times, has been an awful bitch when it comes to taking away musicians.
It sure has.
Not just ones that we're huge fans of, but ones that are iconic, such as Prince or Glenn Frey or Lemmy. The list goes on. There's been all kinds of other guys, and you're hearing this on Monday. Just yesterday, it was announced that Nick Menza of Megadeth fame passed away.
Yeah, that was quite a shock. Obviously Nick hasn't been in Megadeth for quite a while, but his mark on metal drumming and his mark on Megadeth is still super prominent. He played on all the just the legendary albums, Rust in Peace, Countdown to Extinction, Euthanasia, Cryptic Writings. I mean, it's so sad, and, it's kind of hits home for me because this is one of the, when I was getting into metal, I was all about glam and, just kind of hard rock, and Metallica and Megadeth were my first really forays into full on, fucking thrash, heavier, real shit. And one of the songs that grabbed me straight away was Rust in Peace, the track, and that drum intro.
Yeah.
I mean, that just etches into your brain. It's unforgettable, undeniable. And so from then on, Nick Menza was just like one of the guys. So, I mean, it's just, it's sad. It's sad how it happened, on stage while he was playing. Just a fucked up thing. And, again, when it comes to musicians, dying, 2016 can go eat a dick. I mean, seriously.
Right. Well, I think, you know, like you said, when we were young and really got into Metallica, Megadeth, Anthrax, these kind of bands, in the early 90s, I always, you know, if anyone, you know, when you're sitting around talking with music with your friends, I would list him as one of my favorite drummers. And I think it's not,
yeah, you'd have to.
Not because I knew anything about drums when I was 13 or 15. I mean, I really still don't, but at least now I can recognize talent more than I could when I was just listening to someone. I would say that because he was the drummer of one of my favorite bands, you know?
Exactly.
But, you know, even now getting older and recognizing talent, you know, there's a reason you're in Megadeth.
Yeah.
Dave Mustaine doesn't have people in Megadeth that don't belong there.
That's right.
And, you know, all kinds of people that, like drummers, you know, that came up through that time, I'm sure they all looked at him and Lombardo and Charlie Benante as, you know, as their influences and the icons. And, you know, I've already seen it today. Like, you know, Travis Davis from The Devil You Adore said he was a big influence. Mike DiPetrillo from Driver was talking about how he got to play his drum set at NAMM, and, you know, he's a big influence. And Sid Falk posted, you know, that, you know, rest in peace to Nick Menza. Everybody respects this guy.
Yeah.
Because of, like you said, those 4 iconic albums in a row. And he's part of that, the most classic lineup of Megadeth that everybody knows, with Marty Friedman and the 2 Daves.
That's right. That's right. I mean, it's just, that's the one that's the lineup that everybody, you know, always gravitates to when you talk about Megadeth. That's the lineup that Dave Mustaine has tried to get back together a couple times in the past, you know, 5 years or so.
Right.
On, you know, for whatever reason. So, I mean, there's something to that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, it's just this is a huge loss to metal drumming, and, it's just sad. It really is.
And like you pointed out, rest in peace, the drums on that. Another one of my favorite Megadeth songs is Wrecking Day, and it's got that kick-ass drum.
Oh, I know.
You know, just starting off and then the outro and everything.
Oh, I know. But it's just iconic. It really is.
Yeah. Well, like you said, 2016 sucks for taking musicians, but everything else it seems to be good with.
Okay.
You know, we've got good stuff going on.
That is right.
Like we said, we had this press conference. Well, before we get into that, let's play a song.
Okay.
I'm jumping ahead of myself. This band we're about to play is not playing Rocklahoma. We've said the last 3 weeks, it seems like everyone we played been playing Rocklahoma, so I wanted to put that out there. We're playing them because we're talking about Streets Gone Wild, and they're not playing that either, but they are this type of vein of music.
Okay.
You know, we talked to these guys a couple months ago about playing our song, and I was kind of holding it until we were talking about, you know, the 80s era of music.
Something that would fit.
Yeah, even though they're a newer band, they've definitely got this style. So check this song out. The band is called Midnite Sin, and the song's called Set to Kill.
Come on,
right, Set to Kill from Midnite Sin. Killer stuff in the 80s metal vein. You know, it's got that classic early Motley Crue sound, even early Dokken. And anytime you're sounding like those two and doing it well, you know, I'm game for sure.
Yeah.
You know, and it's got the chorus gets stuck in your head, you know, after you heard it. And it's just everything that classic 80s, you know, not really glam, but not really full-on metal. You know, it's somewhere in between the two. Like I said, the Crue or the Dokken kind of thing, you know?
Yeah, it's high energy. It's got that sleazy kind of vibe to it. You know, all their stuff is great. They're on Reverb Nation. This song just, you know, grabbed me straight away, though, and we had to play it.
Yeah, they've got several tracks on there. They've got a cover of, Watching You,
yeah.
By Kiss, yeah. They've got a Pretty Boy Floyd cover, which is, you know, cool, because Pretty Boy Floyd was always that straight-up sleaze, more melodic pop metal thing, kind of, you know, and these guys take it and make it a little bit heavier, which is cool to hear. And anyway, like I said, Reverb Nation, they're on Facebook. It's Midnite, Midnite Sin, and you can find them right there. Search that on Facebook, follow these guys and give them a shout, give them a follow.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, like we said a couple of times, Streets Gone Wild, new festival that's happening in downtown Tulsa this September. And Freddie Stommer, who owns Frederick Entertainment and runs the Farm Rock and Desert Rock concert series, is bringing this to town. We went to the press conference last Wednesday, and let's just get into a little piece of this press conference where Freddie's announcing the festival and announcing some of the bands.
Again, this is part of the Farm Rock concert series, Desert Rock concert series, tour and festival. And it's going to be right here, right literally outside of IDL Ballroom at the cross streets, downtown Tulsa. Block the streets up, bring the stage in. And it's, for us, it's going to be a little bit new of an adventure, and I mean that in a good way, because Farm Rock, as you can imagine, it originally started, I hesitate to say on a farm. It wasn't technically on a farm, but you know the feel to it was an outdoor, kind of big outdoor expansive area outside of Chicago. As a matter of fact, Eddie was involved with the first one goes back a few years now. So the idea of bringing this to a downtown location is, first of all, just sounds so cool. And Tulsa has been so accommodating, it's so exciting to be in this atmosphere. I think it's going to be something very special. So, talking about the logistics of the show, it's going to be Friday, September 9th, Saturday, September 10th. And Friday, September 9th, it's actually going to start at 6 p.m. That's when the doors will open. And on Saturday, it's going to be going pretty much all day. We'll open the doors at noon. And we're going to have, as you can imagine, bands throughout the day on both days. And we really go with the 80s retro rock fest theme. So you guys can all kind of guess at what that means. And we have found that, especially here in Oklahoma and here in Tulsa, that there are such loyal fans and such amazing fans to that scene, as are we. You know, that's a huge reason why, you know, Eddie has been so fantastic at what he has done, and I grew up with that. And so it's a labor of love for me to be able to combine both just what's so special to me for my history of music, along with bringing these types of festivals to different markets and locations. So Saturday we'll be going all day. Start at noon and go all day into the wee hours of the evening, and we can actually announce some of the names. Now remember, there's still some TBA in all this, so keep that in mind. And we are in the midst of discerning which acts are going to be on Friday and Saturday night. So that's all going to be coming very soon. But right now we can say who is confirmed on the show. One of my favorites, Night Ranger. Another one of my favorites, and I know a very good friend of mine who is the drummer also, that he is Quiet Riot, there on the middle. Queensryche, who is still just as amazing as ever. And who could do a fest like this without She's My Cherry Pie and Warrant? beautiful women of rock and roll. Vixen, Janet Gardner, still just absolutely phenomenal. Turn up the radio. We got to have autograph. The self-proclaimed, and you'll know why, bad boys in rock and roll, Faster Pussycat. Kicking off everything, which will be Thursday night, which is going to be an acoustic pre-party. Will be right here at the ballroom, and there will be festivities going on here. It's going to be part of the VIP package. Will be Kip Winger, and another just icon from the era and a very good friend of ours is Mike Tramp of White Lion. So they will both be here kicking it off on doing acoustic sets. And again, keep in mind, everybody, we do have more artists to be announced here pretty soon as we move forward. So
never heard of any of them.
Yeah, yeah. Eddie's wondering who all these people are.
Okay, there you go. A short part of this press conference. We've got a little more audio from that coming up in a bit with Eddie Trunk. But let's talk about what Freddie talked about. You know, it's always cool to go to a show in a downtown, you know, in the streets.
Oh yeah.
You know, it's kind of just has a fun vibe, you know, because there's not, you know, there used to be more shows like that in Tulsa back in the 90s, it seems like, early 2000s.
And I like the whole vibe of closing off a street and, you know, everyone's just kind of in the middle there. It's great.
Yeah. Yeah, we had seen Tesla a couple different ways down there.
Yeah, that was super fun.
And then,
I remember
you know,
that.
in front of the Canes, they used to do that a lot.
Yeah.
And
remember, they had one of those Rock Never Stops. Just in the streets, it was like Jackal and Quiet Riot and
Tesla.
Tesla, yeah.
And Vince Neil.
Yeah, Vince Neil. Yeah, it was great.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Quiet Riot, they're one of the bands on this bill. And,
Exactly.
I've seen him with Jizzy Pearl, but it's been a long time ago.
Okay.
I think it was on another one of those Rock Never Stops, because the one that you were mentioning was when Paul Shortino was in the band.
Well, I don't think Jizzy Pearl was, he was in Rat for a while.
Oh, that's what I'm thinking of. He was in Rat when we saw him at Rock Never
Holy
Stops.
crap, you're slipping, man.
I am, and I love Jizzy Pearl. Well, see, here's something I would like, if anyone that's, you know, close to the Quiet Riot camp, you know, why don't you play Blackout in the Red Room live? Because Jizzy Pearl's on stage. He's the voice of Love Hate. These songs don't get the love they deserve.
Why not?
I just want to throw that out there. You know, we don't get Love Hate in America because, you know, they've got a big following in Europe or England where they play a lot.
Yeah.
So, hey, just as a fan of Love Hate, I think it would be cool if Quiet Riot slipped out in there. Anyway, Frankie Benali's kept this thing going. And, you know, I mean, you hear a lot of people saying it when there's only one guy left from original band. But, you know, I think people love the music and you're out there having a good time.
Why not?
You don't have to watch it if you're not into it. Walk away.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, you know, there's that movie that I still haven't seen yet that I want to.
Oh,
the
right.
documentary. But I heard a lot of press with Frankie Benali about, you know, this new reincarnation and what they've gone through. And I get a very sincere vibe from him. So, I mean, I for one am behind it, you know. I think everything's on a case by case basis, you know. And, this seems pretty legit. And I always liked Frankie Benali anyways. So, I mean, you know, I'm excited to see him. It's going to be great.
Yeah. Definitely one of the things to look forward to, as well as getting to see Queensrÿche again with Todd LaTorre.
That's going to be amazing.
Yeah, we got to see this current lineup last year at Rocklahoma. And these two recent albums are phenomenal.
Yeah, they fucking kill Todd LaTorre, dude.
Yeah, it's just, you know, he's got a great voice, fits the thing perfectly. It's kind of like William Duvall of Alice in Chains. It's got the sound of the original singer, but he's still got his own thing going on too.
That's right.
So it's a real cool vibe, and he sounds amazing on the old stuff, and they're pulling out, you know, they pull out a lot of early stuff live that, you know, the Jeff Tate version of Queensrÿche wasn't doing for a while. So we're very, very excited to get to see that again for sure. And of course, one of the things that both of us have seen multiple times, probably in the teens by now, 15, I would think.
I know where you're going.
Is Warrant.
Oh, man.
And you know, both of us will defend Warrant to the day we're on a deathbed.
That's right.
And
I will.
I will say,
and it's not even a guilty pleasure. It's not even you know, these is my favorite hair bands. All that stupid shit. They're one of my favorite bands ever, and I don't care. I mean, I'll fight for it.
Well, I'm saying you always especially with Warrant, is one of the ones you see it more often with,
Yeah.
is, people don't, blowing it off and saying, I'm not going to see that. Janie Lane's dead, and even before Janie Lane passed away, it was like, Janie Lane's not in the band. I'm not going to see that. It's like, and I can understand that to a point, but 1/5 of a band does not make a band. And even though he wrote a good chunk of that stuff, and he's got an iconic voice, and both of us love him to death as far as everything he ever did. But you can't take away from the fact that Robert Mason is an amazing singer, and everything he was doing before Warrant and everything with Warrant. The album they released with him, Rockaholic, is just a great album.
It's perfect rock and roll.
Yeah, it's like you can't ask for more, and he nails the stuff live. He sounds great doing it. And he's not a Janie Lane clone, so it kind of gives it its own feel.
Exactly.
But it still sounds close enough that all the classic songs you know and love sound awesome live.
Yeah. And, let's talk about how, one of Janie Lane's last interviews when he was on that metal show, when he was kind of singing for Great White here and there.
Oh, that's right.
They crossed paths, and, he sounded pretty cool with it. I don't know if he really gave a stamp of approval, as you probably couldn't, if you had been involved in all that, but it was pretty amicable and pretty, civil. So, I mean, why not,
Yeah.
That's what I figure.
And they've got all original members that are
That's
left
right.
on stage.
That's right.
It's 4 of the 5 guys.
Yeah.
And like I said, you can't go wrong seeing these guys live.
It's going to be great. I can't wait.
Yeah. And speaking of, jump back to episode, I didn't look up the number, 21 maybe?
Something like that.
Early 20s. Joey Allen was on our podcast, which is another one that was quite an honor. We sat down with him last fall when Warrant came through Oklahoma. We had a chance to sit down and talk to him for like 20 minutes, and that was a great one.
Oh, yeah. Check that out.
Well, what else we got? We got Kip Winger.
Kip Winger.
This is not part of the 2-day festival. It's going on, like you said, Friday, Saturday, but the Thursday night before.
Thursday night, kind of a pre-party deal.
Yeah. And they kind of made it sound later in the press conference like that's going to be included if you buy the 2-day VIP package.
Yeah.
You can get into this for free. I don't know if they're selling separate tickets for this too or not, but it's Kip Winger playing solo acoustic, and Mike Tramp as well doing the same thing.
Yeah, of White Line.
So I've never seen Kip Winger solo acoustic. We saw him at Borders
Years ago.
playing 3 songs.
Yeah.
And then about a year or 2 ago, he was coming to Oklahoma City to play solo acoustic.
Oh, that's right. I forgot you went to that. Yeah.
And me and Tracy got there. The opening acts happened, and then right before he was supposed to take the stage, he came out and said, I've been sick. I was trying to fight through it, but I just can't do this.
Can't do it, yeah.
And it was kind of, a bummer because we drove from Tulsa, but at the same time, I thought it was cool that he didn't just flake, like a lot of, you've heard of musicians just leaving.
Yeah, but what else did he do? Tell everybody that.
He came out there, front up, announced it himself. He didn't have a promoter or bartender or anybody announce it for him. And then he said, look, I apologize, but I'm going to hang out here for, as long as I'm wanted. Stand over here and talk to anybody, take pictures, sign autographs.
That's right.
And he did it. The place was pretty full, a couple hundred, 200-300 people in the old, not the Chameleon Room, the one next, Leon's Lounge.
Oh, okay.
He, I stood over there, took pictures, signed everything, and just would talk to people. So, he spent the time, so, he wasn't trying to back out of doing that. And so he was honest about it. And so I'm really looking forward to this since I've never got to see him perform acoustic. The guy's a top-of-the-line musician. And another one, people like to knock on throughout the years, but I'll defend Kip Winger, Reb Beach, and Rod Mortenstein till the day I fall over.
And don't forget Paul Roth.
Yeah, John Roth.
John Roth.
Paul,
Sorry,
you're mixing up
Paul Taylor.
Paul Taylor and John Roth.
Hey, I still was in the band, right?
Right.
But and then who else do we got on the festival?
Autograph,
Vixen. Well, Autograph. Let's talk about Autograph.
Well, Autograph's one of those bands I will have to admit I never owned any albums, so I know like 3 songs.
Yeah, that's kind of why I brought it up with Eddie Trunk, because I haven't seen him. I don't know who is the singer or how good they sound, so it was cool to get a little soundbite about them. That's kind of the, the sleeper kind of surprise about the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then we've got, you mentioned Vixen, which
Yeah.
is cool because this is, 3 of the 4 originals?
I think
'Cause
so,
when
yeah.
they played Rocklahoma, it was just one of them.
One, and I think that they were all getting back together, and then the guitar player, she passed away of cancer, and I think that kind of kept the rest of them together,
Okay.
to kind of, carry on the thing. And I mean, again, this is one of those things. I like Vixen. Everything I've ever heard from him is cool. Some people think they're just a one-hit wonder or a flash in the pan, 80s thing, but hey, I like the songs, so I don't know, sue me,
Yeah.
It's
It's just good, straight up melodic pop rock.
Yeah,
metal,
exactly.
whatever you want to call it.
Yeah,
Then we've got Faster Pussycat.
that's going to be awesome.
These guys never disappoint live, full of attitude and sleaze and, rock and roll. They're kind of the band that, people don't bring it up enough, I think. But if you said, what's one band that defines the whole 80s, early 90s glam rock era? Most people are going to say Motley Crue or Poison or
Yeah.
something. But Faster Pussycat, to me, would be a good one to say because they kind of combine the elements of all those bands.
Oh, definitely.
They had the hit power ballad with House of Pain that, was right in the vein of a Poison or a Warrant or Cinderella. But then they got real dirty and sleazy like, early Crew or,
Yeah.
anything. So, yeah, do not miss them. So what
Oh,
we got
yeah.
next? We didn't even really talk about Mike Tramp. He's another one who's great live.
Yeah.
And you're probably never going to see White Lion together again. So,
No.
this is a great opportunity to see those songs live. And being acoustic, it always gives it a cooler vibe, intimate. And
Yeah, closest you're going to get.
yeah.
And, there's more to be announced.
Yeah. That's the thing. I thought it was kind of weird that they did the press conference without having it all lined up. But at the same time, you got to get the info out there
Yeah.
because some bands were starting to release.
They were, yeah, and
Yeah.
you've got some formidable names.
Yeah.
So
It's
you
enough.
might as well just go ahead and do it. And, Queensryche and Warrant's enough for me to be there for sure.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, hands down.
And they made the comment more, they used the word headliners, so maybe there'll be a couple bigger ones
Yeah.
announced too.
Yeah.
I know some of the other festivals that Freddie's, group has put on, have had Vince Neil, Brett Michaels, Tom Kiefer
Yeah.
headlining some of these. The one in Nashville, outside of the smaller level bands has Tora Tora, Nelson, Slaughter, Junkyard, I think was on one of them.
Junkyard would be amazing.
John Corabi.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, from a personal standpoint, if we could get some Junkyard, some John Corabi, some Tora Tora, I'd be over the moon.
Oh man, that would be amazing.
But from a standpoint of being a fan of this kind of stuff, I hope that there's even though I'm gonna avoid talking bad about Vince Neil. I hope there's a Vince Neil or a Brett Michaels on here because you want it to be successful and draw in more
Yeah,
people
definitely.
so that we can get this again in 2017 and beyond.
That's right.
That's the key. I think they need at least one bigger name to make this be as a success as it could be.
Yeah, yeah. And again, I just like that it's in downtown Tulsa. I mean,
Yeah.
I love downtown Tulsa. I mean, it's going to be a great setting. I mean, I'm really excited about the whole thing.
Yeah, if you're from out of town and you came to Tulsa 12 years ago and you're like, what? Downtown sucks? Come here now.
Yeah,
I guarantee
yeah.
you. It's like the totally revitalized, totally different. Tulsa for years had a horrible downtown outside of a few spots.
Yeah.
And
Now it's
totally
amazing.
been revitalized thanks to people like Tom Green. Who,
That's right.
I haven't mentioned his name yet. He owns Ideal Ballroom and the 3 or 4 clubs surrounding it. He does a lot for downtown, has some great venues, and, he's helping put this on as well. And, the whole downtown area is just a great fun vibe, and doing this down there is cool. There's places like the Hyatt and the Aloft, or however you say that, hotel that are nearby.
Mm-hmm.
You can stay at, walk back and forth after you had a few beverages.
That's right. I think that's what we're going to try to do. We've talked about it.
Yeah, because we'll be there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hopefully, getting some interviews with some of these guys. We'll see.
Definitely.
Yeah. We're going for Tame You Down. Say something crazy on our podcast so we can get on Blabbermouth. Well, we mentioned Eddie Trunk earlier. like we said, we got a short interview with him. You know, we asked him a couple things about the festival, like Jason said, autograph in his book, and I think he asked something about Saxons. So let's just jump into this right now and hear what Eddie has to say.
Well, Rocklahoma hasn't, ever since 2010. Rocklahoma's been humming strong, so there's no issues there.
Well, I mean, as far as this style.
This style, well, it's a bit of a challenge, to be honest with you, and I've seen some of these do really well and some of them not do so well. I believe that this has a good chance to do well because I think that it's a great setting. I think one of the problems that happens with these things is that sometimes they get overextended a little bit. In other words, they run too long, 3 days. It starts to get a little dicey as far as how many bands people can see. The price gets to be too expensive. I think the way they're doing this, which is really just a day and a half, makes it a lot more affordable, a lot more manageable. Some of the problems with Rocklahoma when it was all 80s was the fact, too, that was in August and it was crazy hot and it was out there in the middle of a field, and they've now moved it and they've retooled that, and that's working great the way it is. But I'm very confident and optimistic this should work. This will work well. I certainly hope it does, because it's great if these things can continue to grow and keep going. You don't know until they happen. There are a lot of them. These bands do a lot of events like this around the country, but I don't really think there's anything around Tulsa like this, so I think it should do well.
There's one band I was wondering about, Autograph, they were gone for a long, long time, and I know they've got some new members. I haven't seen them live yet. Are they pretty good? I mean, how are they?
Yeah, they popped up. They popped up again about a year ago, I guess. They started doing stuff. You're right. They were dormant for a really long time, and they got active again maybe like a year ago. They have a new singer. I've seen them a couple times, but not extensively. They usually go on pretty early in the day, and sometimes I don't get to these gigs till after they've played already. But, the one you do bring out a point that honestly is the case, is that a lot of these bands do not have all their original members. Most of them don't. Some of them only have one. It depends. It's case by case. For some bands, it works. In a situation like Warrant, they're all original except for their singer, which unfortunately he's now deceased. So, and the guy they have, Robert Mason, who does a phenomenal job. And same with Quiet Riot. Their singer's gone and passed away. So it is what it is. And they've got Jizzy singing for them, and he does a great job as well. So Queensryche, another situation. That's different. Jeff Tate's still with us, thankfully, but they're parted ways. And Todd, who is their singer, also does a phenomenal job. So for a lot of these people, they come, they hear the songs, they hear them done faithfully the way they were originally done, and they're very happy. But it's always kind of, and so honestly, in some instances, maybe it's not so good. I'm not talking about any bands on this bill, but I've seen times where it's not working. Fans, I have a statement I say all the time. Fans vote with their wallet. If you're a fan of anything, know what you're buying before you buy it. And do your research, man. And if you like it, buy it and support it. But it only takes one click of Google to find out who's in these bands now. It only takes one click on YouTube to find out what they sound like now. And if you're digging it, go and support them. And if you feel like it's not really for you, or it's not the lineup, or they're not doing what you want them to do, don't go. And you'll see how quick it changes. So that's really what it all comes down to. But some of the decades are really hard on some of these guys, and there's not everybody's a survivor, unfortunately.
Well, on a personal note, you had your 2 books, and you've stated in the past these aren't autobiographical, they're stories, but I heard you recently on your podcast say you were considering doing an autobiography. Is that just considering, or is that in the works?
No, it's in the works. Okay. There are a lot of personal stories in both of my books that are out already, of course, but the book that I think it's time to finally do is going to be my story. When it comes out, I'll have been in the business coming up on 35 years. So there's a lot, way more than my first 2 books were a hybrid of stories and photos. This is going to be just the stories. It's going to be my evolution and my history in this business as a kid, in a lot of ways that was made fun of for liking this music, to whatever I've done with it in the decades, radio, TV, whatever. There's a lot of stories, and there's a lot of things I've done people don't even know, because they may know me from 1 or 2 things, but wow, I didn't know For instance, on this festival, Mike Tramp is performing. I actually worked for his management company. When Mike first came to this country, I was the guy that brought him in and kind of helped him out, and he ate dinner at my parents' house. So there's some history I have with these people. People would never know. And I want to get that story out there and talk about how that metal show happened and talk about the things I did on TV before that metal show that maybe people don't know about. So it's going to be a memoir. And I've written 2 chapters already, but I got a long way to go. And it's a bit of a double-edged sword. My schedule has been so crazy, I haven't had time to really focus on anymore. Because I was hoping to get it out this year, but I don't see how that's going to be possible because I'm really going to shoot for and hope for 2017 to get it out. Yeah, so we'll see.
Is it all written by you, not as told to type thing?
I am personally writing every word, and as I said, I've done 2 chapters. I think it's going to, and when that's all done, I think somebody else is going to have to get a hold of it and probably do some tweaking because I'm not the best with grammar. But it's going to be my voice and my story, absolutely.
Great. One last question. We're both big Saxon fans. How good of a sport was Biff with Marilyn Manson? Or behind the scenes, was he like really? I've always wondered that.
On that one, well, because Manson was hammered on that metal show, yeah. And there were a lot of people that were really, Saxon fans, really upset about that, and they were like, think that Biff was so pissed. And I've asked Biff personally, privately, more than one time. And then I'm sorry. He goes, no, man, it was fine. It was funny. He goes, it was what it was, So it was, although that came off to a lot of people as something that probably Biff was really pissed off about. He claims he got a kick out of it, and I asked him off the record. I go, listen, and they go, no, hey man, that's Manson. And I've said that a lot of times too. You don't want Manson to be this politically correct, guy. It's fun to see the train wreck every once in a while, and he delivered that day. So Biff claims he's totally fine with it.
Well, thanks, man.
Thanks for the
Thank
time.
you guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah, we'll see you around Oklahoma.
Yeah, you will. Be back in a week.
All right, there you go. Eddie Trunk from Eddie Trunk fame.
That's
We
right.
don't even have to say what. We all know he does that metal show. Of course, he's had a couple books. As we just heard, he's got another one on the way. And, of course, that metal show and his terrestrial radio show and then the show he's had on Sirius now for several years.
That's right.
You can't find someone that's more knowledgeable about hard rock and metal. I could listen to any of his shows every day just listening to him talk. I get kind of annoyed when his callers call and ask stupid shit, so I usually kind of tune out on those parts. But anytime where it's him interviewing someone or just talking, I'm there 100%.
Always listening. Yeah, definitely.
What do we hear there? We heard that, like you said, he's got the autobiography, the memoir in the works, which would be pretty interesting.
Yeah, that's going to be really good.
I'm sure he's got tons of stories that he's never told
He's got to.
on the radio. So
All the stuff he's seen.
Oh, the press conference. We never really talked about that. Was kind of the first time either one of us had been to something like this.
Yeah. It was very interesting, pretty unique.
Yeah, I mean, it was just kind of like you can see some pictures from this, whatever, just hang out over there, sit in the chairs and listen to Freddie and Eddie and Tom Green talk about this festival and what's going on with it. And
yeah, they had free barbecue, free drinks. Tom Green really put on a great event. And it was really cool to witness and just kind of take it all in.
Yeah. And like you mentioned earlier, the Ideal Ballroom that Tom owns is a really cool venue.
Yes.
And if you're going to come to this, you don't want to miss the Kip Winger and Mike Tramp night because this is just a great place to see a show. I've seen several shows in there, and it's just a stage right there in the middle. Everything's up close and personal.
That's right.
You can get to hear, Down Incognito and 17 and Wait
exactly.
And When the Children Cry, like right here in your face.
And what's going to be really good for Kip Winger and Mike Tramp is they're going to be able to play on a stage that I've played on before.
That's probably what they've been looking forward to.
So they're going to be so grateful.
Yeah. He also mentioned Ricky Rocket and Brandon Gibbs.
Oh yeah, that's right. They're going to be there. I forgot about that.
They're doing acoustic shows both Friday and Saturday night after the day's end for the post party, and that'll be cool to check out. I looked up, I was looking through Brandon Gibbs' Twitter, and he was posting about their show coming up in Nashville. They're doing the same thing, and he said they were playing some Poison songs, some Devil City Angel songs, and then some other random covers.
Okay.
So you'll get to hear some cool stuff there. And what was the Dead Metal Society was the other one.
That's right. They're going to be there.
Yeah, we've talked about them on countless occasions. They've obviously fit this bill perfectly.
Oh, yeah.
They'll be playing probably anything you don't get to hear from one of the bands at the show. You'll hear from them. So, definitely something else to look forward to.
And they're going to be at Rocklahoma this weekend.
Yeah, less than a week till we'll see them again.
Exactly.
Or you see them for the first time, right?
Yes. Yeah, for some fucking reason, I still haven't seen these guys.
Yeah.
My fault.
Well, do we want to get into this final part of this? I was going to play some of the audio that Eddie Trunk talked about in the press conference.
Yeah, definitely.
Just hear, you can just hear some stuff he had to say, which is interesting. I know if you're a music fan like us, you like to hear this kind of stuff.
That's right.
So check out Eddie Trunk from the Streets Gone Wild press conference.
It's great to be here. It's great to be a part of this. I just met Tom for the first time last night, and he is obviously a kindred spirit in this world of music as well. We sat at the tavern over here on the corner. Probably could have still been sitting there if it wasn't around midnight or 12:30 talking music and bands. So that was a lot of fun. And as Freddie said earlier, I got to know Freddie around the time of the first Farm Rock, and have gotten to do some things with him over the years as well. And they're always great events, very professionally run. And I think all of us, as I said, I just mentioned getting to know Tom, but having known Freddie for a little while, we all come at this from the same place. We are all, yes, it's what we do for a living and all that, but we are all doing this because we are truly fans and believers and supporters in rock music. And, I've dedicated my life to it on a variety of levels. Some you know about, some you may not. But it's always a lot of fun for me to be able to be associated with this stuff, to get out there and meet the people that support the things I do, support these bands. And for this particular event, for Streets Gone Wild, it's really cool for me because this is the first one. And some of the things that are really special for me are, there's things that I do that I come and go, and one year I do them, a couple years go by I don't. But the ones that I do and we're in on the ground floor of are really very special to me because I've been associated with it at its roots and seen it grow and change and evolve. And there's a couple of things I do like that annually, whether it be Monsters of Rock Cruise, which I was on the very first one and have done every one. Something that, of course, started here 10 years ago that I've hosted every year, Rocklahoma. And I'll be back for that next week. And now this, which, this is what makes this so cool and interesting and great, is the fact that, as many of you guys know, Rocklahoma started as an 80s sort of vibe and has evolved into something very cool and something very different, a mix of different sort of rock music. And I love that as well. But this, as Freddie mentioned, this is for the guys that are still wearing the Winger t-shirts and the girls that are still wearing the Warrant t-shirts. And, this is all about reliving those great bands. To me, I don't know how many of you guys, I have a little bit of a rant that I go on that I'll save you on, but it makes me nuts when people marginalize these bands. And they talk about these bands as being hair bands or hair metal. That's not anything to do with what these bands are about. These bands were rock of the 80s. These bands are a whole generation's classic rock today, and they shouldn't be marginalized or defined by what they looked like 30 years ago. Got news for you, everybody looked pretty ridiculous 30 years ago, myself included. So it's about great bands, still many of these guys still performing and doing really, really well and bringing the songs that you loved and that you grew up with, and that's what this is all about, and I'm just excited to be a part of it.
I think something, too, that is important to point out is a lot of these bands have come out with music recently and continue to come out with music. And for those of you who haven't taken the time, let's say, to listen to some of Winger's latest work, do it. It's phenomenal. Some of it's really, really heavy. And again, Warrant has come out with some great music in the past.
Warrant made a great record called Rockaholic a few years ago. Their first with Robert Mason, who's their singer. That's a phenomenal record. And you're right. Night Rangers made some great new records recently. Queensryche's last two records, unbelievable. So, yeah, it's unfortunate because outside of guys like me and very few others, a lot of this stuff doesn't get played, but these guys are still recording very viable, great new music. And, of course, they'll do a sampling of that, but a lot of it is about the stuff.
It really is.
The hits, of course. They know, especially in a context like this is what they want to deliver.
And you will hear all the hits, as you can imagine. I think something really nice about these types of events, too, is you still have a lot of bands. Def Leppard, let's say, that goes out on world tours, but the unfortunate reality is they can only take, let's say, 1 or 2 support acts with them. So many of us who still love everybody on this list and another 50 bands on this list, unless they come around to, let's say, a club setting or theater setting in and around the town that you're in, it's hard to see them all in a festival setting anymore. Well, that's kind of where the concept came to me a few years ago. And listen, I didn't reinvent the wheel. There have been some great festivals all over the country that I'm very close with the promoters for, or the people who organize them. Again, as Eddie mentioned, Monsters of Rock Cruise has just done a phenomenal job of bringing not necessarily the Def Leppards or the Scorpions. Again, phenomenal bands are still out there on tour, but you can still go see LA Guns, you can still go see Firehouse, and again, Quiet Riot, and so on and so on. And I think that's where we've had a lot of success, is that the new markets that we're coming into, the markets we continue to work with, yeah, they're still going to go see the Bon Jovis when they come through, but to have a chance to go see a lot of bands that had a lot of hits and still a lot of great music, I think has been why the resurgence has been so popular. And Eddie and I had talked about this too. Believe it or not, the whole Young Guns of rock and roll, you're seeing it. We're seeing a lot of the next generation come with their parents or take part in watching and are getting into this type of music. So, I'll be darned if I'll ever let this true great rock and roll, go away. Because I think it deserves to still be out there in the way that it is. So
the reality of it too is, as Freddie mentioned, is a lot of these bands, honestly, they do not tour because the days of them being able to tour are kind of over. And what they do is sporadic shows like these events. So in order to get all these bands in one place and see them all in a day and a half is a really cool, unique thing. Because some of these bands, I mean, you may not see them come through your market. These guys, it isn't 1988 as much as we wish it was. And, so they aren't out there doing 200 shows and on a bus and touring. They fly in, they do shows, they disappear, they scatter, they go somewhere else. So when you have opportunities like Streets Gone Wild, where you can come to an event and see a great cluster of them. And as Freddie said, there's a few that can't be mentioned yet that are going to come on board as well. It's a great opportunity. And the other thing, and I'm sure Freddie can attest to this too, having been to his events and having done so many things like this myself over the decades, is seeing all these bands is great, but it's also a great camaraderie amongst the fans, because a lot of us have been told that this stuff is dead or passé, or it's been marginalized, or maybe some of us have been made fun of for liking it. I've never given a shit about what people think, but
Exactly.
there are people out there. So to see a community of people get together and have fun and share stories and swap stories and just have a party, have a drink, have a party, hang out, and okay, that's band's playing, let's go over there and watch them or whatever. Okay, well, we're gonna go hang in the back a little bit, but it's just the vibe, the community of people that are really just so happy, like we are as fans, to see outlets for something like this happen is really, really cool. And that's something that I really get a kick out of seeing all the time. Is everybody come together and as Freddie said, not just people our age, but now younger people coming who may have seen a Warrant video on VH1 Classic, or may have heard a song on Sirius XM, or maybe had their parents hand them a CD, and now they're 18, 20, 21, and their parents turn them on to this stuff. That's a very cool thing to see the generation change like that. And as I said, to a lot of people, this is their classic rock. And for whatever reason, sometimes classic rock radio goes from 70s and skips over the 80s and jumps right to the 90s. These events like this very much help keep this stuff alive.
Yep, there's no doubt. We have been involved with a couple of youth groups too in the music business. School of Rock, of course, is one of the popular ones. And a couple weeks ago, I had a show in Chicago with Skid Row and Great White as co-headline, and Brandon Gibbs, who's done some work with Delta City Angels and Poison, worked with Ricky Rock quite a bit. Well, we had the School of Rock group in Chicago open the show, and it was so cool to watch 13-year-olds, 14-year-olds, and some amazing young musicians jamming out Bon Jovi tunes and Ain't Nothing But a Good Time from Poison. And it was just so refreshing to see that, because, again, for us, that's what it's really all about, is continuing the legacy and continuing with the nostalgia of what we're seeing with these bands continuing on. So yes, there is next generations out there. We just have to continue to make sure that they know that this is what it's all about, and keep the legacy going. By the way, I do want to mention this because it originally we were unsure of the situation. But Ricky Rocket from Poison, the drummer from Poison, he will be here as part of the festivities. He's going to be doing some acoustic with the gentleman I just mentioned, Brandon Gibbs. They're going to be doing acoustic sets each night as part of the post party, which again is going to be right here in the IDL ballroom. And so that's kind of cool too. Ricky's still very interested in being out there in a pretty big way, and we're unsure of what Poison's future is as far as a reunion. There's a lot of talk of it. So.
And that's also really good news because Ricky was on my radio show not too long ago and he broke the news that he was battling throat and tongue cancer, and it greatly affected his voice. But the fact that he's going to be performing at this is a great sign that he's on the road to recovery. So I'm really excited. First I'm hearing that. I'm really glad he's doing it. Yeah.
Literally got word last night from his manager. It said the treatments have been going phenomenally well, and so Ricky said he gave his manager a thumbs up for Tulsa. So that's good news. Ricky's, again, if any of you who have had a chance to meet him, just a fantastic guy and such a great ambassador for the rock and roll industry. So yes, I apologize. I didn't mean to leave that out, but he'll also be part of the whole craziness of that weekend.
All right, once again, Streets Gone Wild press conference. We had a great time. Glad we got to go. Glad we got the invite to make it over there. Fun time. Great food. Great seeing Mike DiPetrillo from Driver.
That's right.
We saw our buddy Billy Bristol, who also has a hand in this. He, runs the stages on some of this stuff, and I know he'll be working the festival. So shout out to Billy. And once again, it was cool to meet Freddie from Frederick Entertainment.
Yeah.
Awesome to meet Eddie Trunk again and do that interview. And of course, it's always good to see Tom Green.
Oh,
we
yeah,
got a
definitely.
chance to talk to him as well. So thanks to him.
And Sid Falk was out there too.
Yeah. Yeah, Sid Falk. I saw him when we first got there, and I was going to go say hey, but everybody kept coming up to him, and I'm like, well,
yeah.
I know he doesn't get out of these kind of things a lot. And so I'm sure he knows going into it he's going to be bombarded. But he's talking to everybody, and so I just kind of waited till we're leaving, and he was talking to Mike DiPetrillo out there. I walked over and said, hey.
There you go.
We had him, like we've mentioned before on the podcast, back in the early 20s. There was a 2-part podcast. It was like almost 3.5 hours worth of stuff there from Sid. Great stuff if you're a fan of him or Overkill or Sid, Paul Di'Anno, any of that stuff. There's all kinds of cool stuff in this thing.
That's right.
Well, does that wrap this thing up? I need to say thethunderunderground.com. I've never said that. As always say, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Periscope, YouTube. We're on all of them. You can email us at thethunderunderground@gmail.com. If you've got a band you want us to play or check out or review, or if you've got feedback, anything. Share this podcast, share other podcasts. Just tell your friends, hey, check out Thunder Underground. We've had people do that, and it's worked, and we appreciate it more than we can say.
Exactly. And, as we mentioned before and in podcasts before, Rocklahoma's coming up this weekend. We're going to be there. Look for us.
This week, 2 days from now, we'll be out there.
Yeah, you're gonna see our banner. You can't miss us.
Yeah, come by, say hey, say you heard our podcast, or say you listen to one of them, whatever.
That's
Just
right.
come by, have a drink with us, hang out, talk about everything but Five Finger Death Punch.
That's right.
We promised on the last one we would talk about them if you want to.
Yeah, if we have to, we can do it. And we won't be dicks about it.
Right.
Trent might, I won't.
No, I'll be nice. I'll talk about Axel DC all night long.
Hell yes.
All right, well, if you're coming to Rocklahoma, we hope to see you there. And until next time.
Thunder Underground, y'all.